All right. Hello, LinkedIn and Packed YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us live today. We're actually going to talk about how to build analytics teams with John K. Thompson. I'm going to bring him into the stream right now so he can say hello. Hey, John.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Kate.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I know we met probably a couple of weeks ago, and when I started reading your Building Analytics Teams book, and we're going to talk a lot more about the topic and the book in a minute. But before we get started, I do have an interesting question that John came up with to ask the audience. So as you're joining, let me know, how long does it typically take you on average to read a book about this size? So let's say it's about 400 pages and it's not exactly technical, so it's not like a programming book, but it's not a fiction book either, right? So just let us know how many days, months, years it takes you to read a book of this size, because it actually took John only 3 months to write it. So looking forward to comments there. All right, so John, welcome to the show. How about you introduce yourself, tell people who you are, what you do. Who is John?
Thank you, Kate. So glad to be here. It's very exciting to be doing a LinkedIn Live event with you. We've been talking about it for a while, and we're here. So I'm fired up for it. Thank you. My name is John Thompson. I am an author of 2 books. One I wrote in 2017 called Analytics: How to Win with Intelligence. And this one, Building Analytics Teams, how to improve business performance through analytics. So I've been in the analytics field for 32 years now, 32, 33, depending on how you count it. And I have done all sorts of things like run large advanced analytics teams like I'm doing now for CSL Behring, a biopharma company. And I've been part of Dell and IBM and other companies where we've been innovating and building technologies for advanced analytics. So I've been at it for quite some time, and I've been on both sides of the fence, either building the technologies that people use or leveraging them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, so you said CSL Behring, and I'm assuming you're currently working from home, right? Or you?
I am, yes. 3rd floor of my house.
3rd floor of your house, perfect. So how's that going for you?
I love working from home. It's the overall situation is a little tough, the COVID crisis and all that, but I have worked from home for 25 years. So most of the people in the advanced analytics field are very comfortable working from home. Some of them are more comfortable being home than they are being in the office. So my team and I have been very happy with the remote working situation. Products like Zoom and WebEx and Google Hangout and all those kind of things. We were all on those platforms quite a bit, so works well for me.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy working from home. I've always sought out positions that allowed me to work from home even before we had to. So I was very used to the remote virtual teams. We've got an answer here from Josh saying he tends to pick and choose chapters and sections over time. Too hard to get through a book straight in a short period of time. So, and there's another question from Ayush here about the chances to win a book. So Ayush, you brought this up earlier than we planned, but yes, we're actually going to give away 3 of John's books, Building Analytics Teams. And the way to win a book is to ask the best question. Criteria for best question is yet to be determined, but John and I will choose the winner and announce the 3 winners at the end of the session. So definitely stick around. All right, I'm going to go ahead and see the other comments. We've got Rahul saying, I start a book, and if the book grips me, then probably a few weeks. But if the book does not, then it stays on the bookshelf. Later, he realizes, oops, I have this book and I can read this. So, and Matthew, I have 1-year-old. Reading for me consists of Go Dog Go. Wow, that's a good one. Oh, that's funny. So
Hello Moon probably in there too.
Yeah, maybe I've got that one actually. And Good Night something. Good Night Moon, I think, is also a good one. So John, how come you decided to write this book? And I know you mentioned right before we started the session, it only took you 3 months. So I do want to hear about that whole journey from when you got the idea to actually publishing that book. Like, how did that go for you?
It went very well. I was actually writing a different book. I was writing a book on artificial intelligence and ethics,
Okay.
and I had the table of contents mapped out. I had started writing the first couple chapters, and then late last year, I got the idea that analytics teams was really something people were struggling with, and I had seen that for years when I was at Dell and Gartner and other places, and I thought, maybe that's a topic. And then at the same time, there were 4 books that came out on AI and ethics. And I just thought, this is too crowded. I'm not going to do it. So around November of last year, pre-COVID, of course, I was at an event speaking to a couple hundred people. And I decided that the topic was going to be advanced analytics teams and how to manage those teams and how to build them. So I came up with a construct and I put it together as a presentation. And I've been doing keynote presentations for 15, 20 years now. This was the one that the most people approached me afterwards. I was literally had people in a line waiting to give me their card and come up and talk about it. So then I thought, okay, well, there's something there. If I'm thinking about it, the people at the sessions are interested in it. So then I just thought, all right, I'm going to sit down and write this book. And then, as you said, I gave myself a challenge. I was, in the holiday period, everybody was around. We're all talking. My wife, my daughter, my son. And I said, I think I'm going to try to write a book as fast as I possibly can. And they're all like, yeah, whatever, Dad. You know how kids are with their parents. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start on January 1st. And I'm going to try to have this book done by June 30th. I mean, done, printed, published, edited, the whole thing. So I finished writing it on April 13th. And it was published on June 30th.
Wow. That's a really, really quick turnaround. So that's like a great New Year's resolution that you've actually accomplished. When most people give up, I guess, 2 weeks into it.
Yeah, I guess so. And we were talking earlier, this is kind of an interesting way to do it. I would before I went to sleep, and sometimes I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and I just sit down at the keyboard, and by 7 o'clock, I had another chapter done.
Yeah, so that's really amazing, and it's a big book. It's not like it's a 100-page book. It's really well written, and I'm on starting chapter 4, the leadership for analytics teams. And we're getting a lot of questions. People want a free book, I'm assuming. So the book is written for who exactly? Is it large companies? Is it for a company that has a large data science and analytics team, or is it for the smaller companies? Who do you think is the target audience here?
Well, I had a very specific person in mind when I started writing the book, and the target market has broadened, and the market has broadened, the market for the book, not me. I wrote the book originally thinking of someone who's a senior manager, maybe an entry-level executive at a large corporation who's been given the go-ahead to create a data science or advanced analytics function or team. That's who I actually wrote the book for. But now, as the book has been out and the reception has been so positive, I'm truly humbled by it. There's a lot of people that are coming in who are undergraduate students, graduate students, people who are just joining the workforce, who are really just trying to figure out what is work going to look like for me? What is a company going to expect of me as a data scientist? And what can I expect from my team members as being part of an advanced analytics team? So it turns out that the market's a bit broader than I thought it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, if I were to recommend this book to somebody, it would be somebody that's, in that position to make those decisions, but it would also be someone who's really trying to take that next step. They've taken the entry level, become a data scientist boot camp, online course, etc. And now they want to learn about how to actually manage a team and how all that works. And you go into sponsorships and collaborations and culture and all that. And I think that was a gap in the marketplace that you filled. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because that was one of the things that, after doing this for decades and decades, I've probably made more in all the mistakes you possibly could in doing this job and all the different jobs that I've had. But I've always been forward oriented. I'm like, okay, I made that mistake. I won't make that again. Do this, keep moving on. And I just thought to myself, this is worth something and people should know about it. One of the reviewers said in the book that, I'd been doing this for 3 decades or so. And probably this is probably the first time someone has sat down and wrote out what an advanced analytics team should look like and could look like in the future. So timing was good.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, that brings me to my next question is, can we define what good looks like? So what is an effective data analytics team?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of it comes down to work-life balance is one factor. Something I talk about in the book, you may have just passed it or you may just be getting to it, is the personal project portfolio. Each data scientist, at least the data scientists that work on my teams, all have a personal project portfolio. And that is set up in a way that they have 2 major projects, and a major project is defined as something that'll take you from 6 months to a year to complete. And then they have a range of 2 to 5 small projects or service requests on their desk at any one time. And the idea is that as a data scientist, you're dependent on others to give you data. You have to buy data from external sources. You have to work with subject matter experts. You have to collaborate with a whole ecosystem of people. Sometimes people, go on vacation, they get sick, they get distracted, the data is not available. So the idea that you give a data scientist a project and that's what they work on is productivity destroying, in my opinion. Just like Kate, I think you and I have some similar characteristics. We're sitting here working, I get bored. I go out to the garage and I hit the heavy bag, or I get on my motorcycle and I go for a ride, or I'll
you have a motorcycle? I didn't know that. That's great. My brother rides a motorcycle when he had one.
I have a Harley Davidson, a Fat Boy.
Oh, that's the one he wants. Oh, man.
Yeah, my dad put me on a motorcycle when I was 5, so I've been riding for a long time. But, it's one of those things that, you want your team to be engaged, and you want them to have diversity in their work, and you want them to have, this is very important, you want them to have control of their day. The idea that, you're on them, you're managing them tightly, you're driving them forward in everything they do, I think is just soul crushing. I think that's horrible to do to people. So in my teams, they get a portfolio of projects. We come together once a week, we talk about it, and you're making progress, and sometimes you're not making progress because, like I said, the data doesn't exist, or maybe the theory that we had put together doesn't work out. So, to your question, I think the good looks like a team of people that have control of their destiny, that have their own project portfolio, they're making their own decisions, and they're driving it forward, and the team is holding them accountable. That's what I think that looks like.
And we've got a lot of questions. Sorry, I'm just reading through. I think I'll just pick randomly because I don't want to be rude and read while you speak. So Mark Carson is saying, "Hi John, thanks for your time. Great book. He's learned a lot." Mark, how long did it take you to read the book? I'm just curious now, since John asked that question. You speak to this, but was hoping for a summary statement from you. How deep into the practice of analytics, statistics PhD, should an analytics practice leader be? That's a good question.
That's a great question. I've seen people, who are very light. They don't know what a neural net is or what it does or how it works. I've seen people that have had, an undergraduate education and very little mathematical background, and both of those people have been successful. I have seen people who are PhDs in a certain type of math, and they've been successful. So it really depends on the team you build. If you're not a heavyweight in mathematics or advanced algorithms or something like that, then you need to hire people who are. You can't be afraid that, someone in the room is smarter than you. I'm very proud to say I'm the dumbest person in the room in every meeting I have with my team, and they will tell you that. And I ask all sorts of naive questions, and they kind of roll their eyes at me sometimes. But, every now and then, like a blind squirrel, I find a nut, and they're happy with that. They're like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. So you really need to, it doesn't matter where you are on the continuum of technical expertise, but you really need a team that has what you don't have.
So it's being able to identify the skills that you're missing, fill those gaps, and actually manage the individuals properly, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So thank you for that. We've got a question here from Matthew. Let's see. Okay. So, should I send management a copy of your book?
I'll send you a link and you can send out a bulk mailing to all of management. The answer is yes. I wrote the book with the idea that management would read the book and they would understand what I'm saying. So I think it's a great book for management. I think it's a great book for executives, non-technical executives too. I actually wrote the first book as a primer for non-technical executives so they could figure out how to invest in an analytics function. And this book was the corollary. It's for the managers who are building the teams, but they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, if you're the manager who's building a team, you should read the first book because it will tell you what the executives are thinking. And if you're an executive, you should read the second book because you'll understand what your teams are thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bernardo says you should really do that. It's a great gift. I have been doing this. So that's great, Bernardo, that you've been doing this. All right, let's see. Question here. It says from LinkedIn user, so I'm going to have to go and find the actual person. Sometimes it does that for privacy reasons. But how do you manage bottlenecks from other teams that your teams are reliant on, right? So you need data from a software engineering team, third-party sources, database management. You're the last chink in the chain, and you are what they see, but the data isn't great or it's difficult to get, and they blame you. So what do you do in that situation?
Well, that's a great question. That's a realistic situation. It happens all the time. And that question really goes to what does a manager do? Because you as a data scientist should not be responsible for that. That actually is my job or the job of the person who's leading the advanced analytics team. I call that air cover. I had a boss, John Swainson, great guy. He was my boss at Dell Software. And he was always saying to me, whatever you need for air cover, let me know. So if you're having a problem getting the data from an outside provider, a different group in the organization, an individual person, you need to escalate that up to your management and their management. And then that person needs to go have a meeting with the management of that group and make it clear that there's something wrong here, that the data is not coming through and it's thwarting the effort. So that's not your job. That's my job.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that brings me to another question I had is, what are some of the other challenges that you can face when you're trying to build this analytics team? Not all at once, just a couple of challenges. I'm sure there are so many.
I was like, where do I start?
It takes a while. Yeah, this could go on all day.
Let's start with team cohesion.
Okay.
It's something that cannot be underestimated. I had a team in the not so distant past, a small team, 10 people. And we had one person on the team that was already there when I was hired, came in, and it was a real problem. That person was not gelling with the team. The rest of the team members willing to share their ideas, willing to share their work, willing to hear the ideas of everybody else, have a really healthy give and take. This person was just divisive, would not share their code, would not take criticism, actually undermined coworkers. So, I made the mistake, and this is the last time in my career I will ever do this, is that I came in and said, I'll give this person another chance. And when we all rallied around them and worked hard holding them up, they could function. But the rest of us were spending all our time supporting them. So then when we all went back to do our day jobs and do the rest of our work, they fell apart. So, my two choices when I came in were to try to give them another chance or to fire them. From now on, it would be the latter. I would just fire them on the spot.
Yeah. Because I remember reading an anecdote from I don't think this is the same scenario where you took an individual who was wanting to work remotely and you gave him or her, I don't remember, a different role, and then that person really thrived because you were able to meet the requirements of what they were wanting to get out of that job. And then you surprised the management team by saying, yeah, look at this thing that was developed. And then they were shocked to hear that it was this individual. I'm guessing it's a different story, right?
Different story, completely different story. But that story is it's one of my favorites, because it was a gentleman, it was a fellow, and he was working in our British office in the UK, and he had some challenges. He had a long commute, which was bad. He had sleep apnea. He had narcolepsy. He had a lot of physical conditions he had to contend with. And he liked to work from like 8 at night to 2 in the morning. So, so he'd come up in the office, he'd just be wiped out, because he was up all night coding and doing whatever else. He listened to death metal or whatever he was listening to. I don't really care. And so he'd come to the office and it was just a terrible optics. He was sleeping in his chair and just, he was.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. It does
not good. So, and I sat down with him and I said, look, we're gonna do something here. You're gonna go home. You're going home today. Yeah. And you're going to take all your computer equipment with you. And he's like looking at me like, what are you saying? I said, just, you never come back to the office again, ever.
Oh my God.
And he's like, I don't get it. And I said, just do what I tell you. And then we got on the phone because I lived in Chicago at the time. So, okay. I laid out this big project for him and told him what to do. And, and it was a project that was going to take months to get done. Yeah. So he went at it, and every week he was making progress. And I finally asked him one time, I said, when do you work? He's like, all night. And I just play loud music and I work all night and I sleep all day. I'm like, great. The results were fabulous. You would have thought that this was a world-class developer working for like Accenture or Deloitte or Bain or McKinsey or something like that. But it was just the same guy that everybody thought needed to be fired.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing story. So it's all about identifying the individual traits, and then I guess it's a very individual approach. And in your last statement, you mentioned you basically invest the time when you think there's going to be a reward, right? For that time investment.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right. We got a comment here from Paul saying, great book, John. I think you could take the word analytics in the title and replace it with business, and it'll work for every group. Because it's about building strong teams and letting them work to their strengths. I love that.
That's a great comment. A disclaimer and personal, I guess a disclaimer. Paul and I have worked together for 20 plus years now. So, and he can't win the book because he already has one. So, but it's true.
Well, it was a comment. It wasn't a question, right? You win for questions, not.
There you go. Paul can't win anyway. So, but yeah, and I think that's a good observation, Paul. You could take analytics out, and there is a fair amount of advice in the book that is just related to business. But I really did want to make the point that analytics teams are different than other teams. So that's what I was trying to call out. But a lot of business related advice in there.
Yeah, there's plenty of overlap. So those listening that are not interested in analytics teams and business teams, you can definitely still get insights from the book. Yes. All right. Dominic Russo. So how would you advocate to move a growing company towards forming a unified analytics team instead of decentralized structure with analysts assigned to other teams like sales analytics, marketing analytics, supply chain analytics? Yeah, I can't wait to hear your answer, John.
Dominic, great question. And this is something that, throughout my career, it's been centralized, decentralized, vertical, horizontal. It's, the fad of the day, whatever, comes out of Clayton Christensen or whatever management guru people are listening to. I know Clayton's passed on, but may he rest in peace. But whatever guru is espousing an idea, people go with that. I do think there are places for both of those structures. What we have at CSL is kind of a hybrid right now. I have a group that is the global advanced analytics and artificial intelligence team, and we serve everybody. We do manufacturing, supply chain, patient analytics, donor analytics, manufacturing efficiency, everything. And what we did when we started 2 years ago is we had a summit in Switzerland where we brought together 140 people. And what we said was that we wanted all the line of business functions to create their own analytics teams. Because my team can't do it all for a 25,000 person company, but we can be an overlay consulting group for all of them. So we have them coming to us and saying, hey, we want to build a forecasting application, which we have done for them. Other people show up and say, hey, there's a Salesforce add-on that has an analytics component. Can you evaluate that for us? And we do that too. Other people come and say, hey, we've got this product. It said it has analytics. We look at it and it just has a dashboard. So we say, okay, that will help you in the beginning. We'll build on top of it. So a centralized group serving a decentralized function or decentralized functions works very well. The one thing that you don't want to do, Dominic, is you don't want to be the guy in the middle saying, you guys can't do your own work, or you gals can't hire your own people. That just is not going to be a good position for you to be in, and it's not good optics for the organization. I think what will happen over time in my role at CSL is that many of those people that are hired in those individual functions will end up reporting up to me. Because over time, what you'll see is these managers, while they thought they wanted to have an analytics function, they'll find out, and I say this all the time, and I say it with all due respect and love, is that analytics people are special snowflakes, and they are not the same as everyone else. So trying to manage an analytics genius, just like you would a BI analyst, does not work out well. So over time, generally what happens is you have all these people decentralized around, they end up being naturally aggregated back up into the centralized function. So it's almost like a living ecosystem. You know, people are coming in, they're centralizing, they get excited by supply chain analytics or manufacturing efficiency, they leave the central group, they go back out, they do that for a while, they want to come back in for a little bit more diversity in work. So in my opinion, if your organization is committed to analytics and is funding it, don't really worry about the structure. It's going to take care of itself.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Before I go to the next question, those who joined us and did not hear the beginning of the discussion, we're giving away 3 building analytics team books. By the way, I always move it to the wrong side because it's like a mirror. So now I see the book. We're giving away 3 books to Best Questions Asked. I'm actually taking notes on my piece of paper for who I nominate as winners. But John, I'm going to send those to you. You're going to have to approve the winners in our little private chat, and we'll announce them at the end of the session. So we've got another question here from Thomas asking, what would be the 3 most positively impactful intrinsic motivators for data scientists that a data science team manager could build the team's motivation and engagement based on? Like, so around which motivators do they build that?
Okay. 3 intrinsic motivations for data scientists that managers can amplify and build on.
Is it ping pong tables? Is it chips? What do they want? Without music and working through the night?
It's M&Ms and organic potato chips. No. I do talk about this a lot in the book, and I believe that one of the intrinsic characteristics that you want in a very successful data scientist is curiosity. You want someone who's naturally curious about pretty much everything in life. Someone asked me, the other day, or I guess a while ago, why I thought analytics was a great career and why I was so passionate about it. I said, well, and I was at Dell at the time, and I said, it's the only job I know that I can be talking to a plant manager about the optimal flow of oil through a plant that's going to be making mayonnaise in the morning, and in the afternoon be talking to a credit risk analyst about how we're going to help them grant credit in the Northern European market. I am intensely curious about everything. I read about physics, I read about math, I read about child psychology, I read about motorcycles, cars, you name it, I read about it. So I think curiosity is number 1. Number 2, I think, is a persistence and a diligence to come up with solutions. When I went to my undergraduate, I was one of the first computer science graduates at a bachelor's degree in the United States. And I went back to my alma mater and I asked them, I said, why did you recruit kids like us? And they said, well, you guys that grew up as auto mechanics and working in machine shops always had to fix your own equipment. So you were always tinkering with things, and you were always experimenting, and you were always open to any range of solutions that worked. So curiosity, persistence, and then of course, honesty and integrity. I think those are the 3 that I look for in any candidate that's going to join my team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think curiosity is always very high on the list. Anyone I asked, what are some characteristics of a data scientist? I gave a talk on this probably a year ago, and curiosity came up in every single conversation I've had when I asked that question. So.
Yeah.
Okay, question from Hugo. So this is going down to the intern and junior data analysts, right? What are the expectations from interns and junior data analysts in the broader scheme of that team structure?
Does Hugo work at CSL? Does he know me? I mean, it's no.
Maybe he wants. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe
It's a great question. And I don't think everybody knows this, or it's not widely known, is that, I believe that interns are hugely valuable. Last year we had 2 interns. This year we had 6 interns. We've done 2 capstone projects with the University of Michigan, their School of Information. If I had a choice, and I do have a choice, and if I were to hire people into my team, I would generally hire very few experienced data scientists. I would always hire interns first and entry-level people first, because they're intensely curious. They're up on the newest technology, and they don't have a bunch of limitations in their mind on what can and cannot be done. So I love that. I have all sorts of stories about impossible projects that we can talk about at another time. But what do I expect from an intern? I expect interns to take on projects with zeal. I expect them to look at the problems we give them and do everything they possibly can to solve them. We've got a couple interns right now at CSL that we gave them problems that were pretty much considered intractable, that no one had figured out how to do. Both of them have been solved in the matter of 6 weeks. So what I expect is, I expect them to come to work every day, work hard, be part of the team, and be innovative and creative. And if they do that, then more than likely they're going to end up as a full-time employee.
Yeah, I like that perspective, because if you hire the experienced data scientist or senior data scientist first, then you bring on the interns, then they tell them what they know, you do that download, and then you're basically not getting that innovative thinking that you're talking about. Yeah,
and it really worked out exceedingly well this year. Because as you said, when we first started out, Kate, how's this remote working out for you? Yeah. And our 6 interns never missed a beat. They're on Zoom all the time with us. They're working, they're developing, they're putting code into production. And people came and said, are you going to cancel your internships? And I'm like, why? We never see them anyway. We never have them come to the office. I don't care if they're sitting by the pool drinking pina coladas. If they're getting the work done, I'm fine with it.
I think you're going to get a lot of intern applications. So, okay, another question here from Rochelle. So, hello, John. I believe another element of success for successive analytics teams is to understand whether your org has an analytics culture and mindset of analytics entrained in its DNA. What advice do you have for leaders working in an organization where the approach is, we don't have time to analyze the data, we just need to act?
Well, there's no organizations like that, Rochelle. I have no idea where you got that concept. No, that's always the case. There's always a balancing act. Especially in the time of COVID, it is a very devastating time for some people, and my heart goes out to them, absolutely. But it also puts senior executives on edge because things are changing all the time. My approach is that we listen to the organizations, we listen to the executives, we listen to the subject matter experts, and we work on what's causing their hair to be on fire, what's causing them concern. But we rarely do that without linking it to some long-term effect. We're currently working on an initiative right now that I am going to take, and I've never done this before, I'm going to take all the data scientists and I'm going to focus them on one initiative for the next year. Mm-hmm. And what's going to happen is that each of the data scientists is going to have multiple sub-projects of this initiative. And in the end, we will have a strategic analysis and understanding of a part of our business that we've never had before. But mm-hmm. the key there, linking it to Rochelle's comment and question, is that we are delivering value to the executives today. We are doing work that is assuaging their anxiety, that is giving them answers, that is helping them make decisions today. But when we're done, a year from now, we will unveil what we've built, although everybody knows what we're building. It's not like we're hiding it from anyone. But what we can do is we can take a longer term vision. And we don't do little projects and then throw them away, and little data elements and throw them away. We build continuously to a larger vision and goal. So that's Your organizations will always say, we don't have time to do this, we just need to act. That's just the constant mantra. So you need to be a little bit more have a broader vision and a little bit more encompassing in what you're doing to address that.
And I guess sharing that vision effectively, right, to those stakeholders that have to make decisions. Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Kate. I mean, when they come to you with, they're anxious and they're upset and they need an answer for the board meeting tomorrow, that's not the time to give them a lecture that, something's coming 6 months or 9 months from now. That's the time to act and make them happy. And then after they've had the board meeting, then they come back to you and say, hey, what are you working on? You're going to lay out this grand vision. And they go, oh, well, I'll talk to you in 6 months or so. See you later.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a comment here from Hugo. Thank you for answering. I'm starting my career as a data analyst, studying every day, and you inspired Hugo. So good job. All right, let's see. We've got several questions. Let's just pick John. All right. Does your team get very specific? How many dollars, for example, when it comes to business value your team is adding? I love this question because sometimes it's a little bit difficult to justify your work when you can't show people that this translated to this many dollars earned or prevented from being lost. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. Great question, John. We do. We get down to the actual dimes on what's going to happen. So, my team, and if you see the book, you've seen it, Kate's held it up a couple different times. If you read the subhead, Harnessing Analytics and Artificial Intelligence for Business Improvement, that's really what it's about, is business improvement. We're not doing this just because we're nerds and we like to run math models. That's just not it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to predict who are the patients that need to be addressed, who are the donors that will keep coming into the plasma centers, who are the customers that are the best credit risks, how much oil can we jam into that pipe to get the optimal mayonnaise production out of the factory. So we do analytics on our analytics. And when we first started, there were many questions about this. And it's usually, if you're a data science leader, it's one of the first things that happens to you in the first 6-7 months that you're in the job. So you need to be working on those analytics. We don't really get that anymore. Nobody asks me that question anymore at CSL. And usually what it is that we've already proven that we're picking projects that have strategic importance and will develop a return, that return cannot be gotten any other way than through the path that we've defined. So generally people now are like, yeah, go ahead and do it. It's fine, because the first few projects we did, I think, to be clear, the first 10 projects we did returned over $40 million in the first 2 years.
Oh, wow.
My team doesn't cost anywhere near $40 million. I can tell you that.
Wow. Yeah, that proves your value right there. That's down to the dime, like you said. We've got, let me see, there was just a good question, and there it is from Florent. And I know, John, we went a little bit over time. Hope you can stick around for a few more minutes, just because we've got really great questions coming in.
Sure. No, I'm here.
That all day? We could do this all day, I think.
Yeah, I think we could.
So Florent's question is about being a manager for the first time. What would you recommend to do first when you take that job?
That's, Florent, that's a great question. And I always have to stop myself from being flip and giving a silly answer, because I know none of you people know me. So I'll refrain from that, and I'll be serious, and I'll give you an actual answer you can use. What you need to do as being a first-time manager is be very careful about your hiring. I know that it seems like it's taking forever to get people hired, and you have to go through hoops and have everybody interview them and get together and talk about it. But hiring your staff is your number one concern. Then being connected with your management, making sure that you're aligned with their expectations of what they want your team to be delivering. So if you do that, if you hire carefully and slowly and in a considerate manner, and you're connected with your management team, the rest of it will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So, by the way, John, while I look for the next question, if you look at the private chat, I've suggested a few winners. You can review that.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Yes?
I think those are good nominations. Yeah. I was afraid to look over there, Kate, because, I'd been told so many times not to be looking at anything but you and the camera. So I was not looking over there for a reason.
Okay, perfect. So I'll ask one last question from the audience here. Let's see, Manoj. Okay, let me click on that. It's not, Manoj's question isn't coming in. It's a good question though.
I have it.
Oh, you have it. Okay, I guess my screen is not showing it. So he says, thanks for the session. Would like to get your suggestion on measuring values of analytics and bringing changes quickly. So pivot using lean principles.
I don't know if everybody else there, it looks like Kate has disappeared for a minute. I'll answer the question as soon as the stream is going on. It still says it's live. So, there's Kate. She's back.
Yep, sorry.
So, measuring the value of analytics always comes down to what's going to change. How many more lots are you going to get through the factory? How many more shifts can productively work? How many more credit applications can you grant without the default rate going up? That's how you measure analytics. It's not, how many computers you have or how many people you have hired or anything like that. And then using agile principles, I'm not a big fan, to be completely honest. It gets back to hiring the people that you trust and expecting them to do the work you've asked them to do and giving them enough time to do the work. We have tried daily stand-up meetings in my team, and I've seen the productivity go down. So I don't like to sit on people's heads. I'm not a micromanager. There are lots of agile coaches out there, and agile's great. Agile's wonderful. It just doesn't work for the kind of team that I have built and the teams that I like to build.
Yeah, I understand. I remember having those standing meetings, and they were not always effective. Sometimes everyone was like, oh my God, we're here again. Let's just get this over so I can do my job. And is it my turn to give my little status update that nobody cares about? Okay, everyone does something else while they're giving the update. And now, especially with virtual meetings, people go on mute and start vacuuming or something while it's not their turn.
We have seen some of that. Yes, exactly. Yeah, agreed.
All right, I think I'm okay. Fine, I'll ask one more question. Sorry, it's just there are so many interesting ones coming in. So Kurt is asking, you mentioned curiosity and getting to look at various industries. So what industries have yielded favorite insights or methods that you've been able to apply elsewhere in a new way? It might be a management approach, analysis, or something else. I don't know if you have any cool stories to share on that.
Yeah, I started out working in the consumer packaged goods industry. I worked in the United States, consumer packaged goods company here in the United States that he felt was impossible from an analytics perspective. So I stayed there all night drinking Mountain Dew and eating pizza and built it. And he came in the next day, and I was, of course, wearing the same clothes. And he looked at me, and I was much younger at the time. And he said, "Kid, have you gone home?" And I'm like, "No." And he said, "What have you been doing?" And I said, "I built it." And he said, "You built what?" And I said, "I built what you described last night." And he said, "Go to the hotel, sleep, take a shower, come back." And I did. And the application had just finished running. And it was really kind of boring. There was an input form that you put in some criteria, and there was an output form, which was a document. And really what it did is it ran against like 20, 25 databases, did all sorts of calculations, and it predicted the best target markets for introducing new products.
Okay.
So I've taken that, and that was basically my first impossible project when I was a young analyst. So I've always asked people to give us the most difficult problem that they have felt that is. So that's much. I hope that helps.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And last question I have for you, John, is where can people actually go and pick up the book if they're not going to be announced as the lucky winners in 30 seconds?
I heard that they line up outside of Kate's house, and she comes down every afternoon and
Yes,
hands them out.
absolutely. I do have all your books.
Amazon on all the different properties: Amazon India, Amazon UK, Amazon.com.
So I was building a slide while you were answering that last question, so I can share it and show people the winners. Probably I'll mess up their names. That's another reason I built the slide so I could put the names on the slide. But here we go. The winners of the book are Dominic Russo, Thomas Friedrichs, and Rochelle Ann Hood. So congratulations, guys. You will get a copy of John's book in the mail, the paperback version. So thank you again, everybody, for joining the session. Thank you so much, John, for providing all your insights. Truly, so many great questions came through, and I actually learned so much. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Kate. It was really fun. I enjoyed the run up to it, the preparation, and the session was fantastic. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you have time, feel free to go back to LinkedIn and YouTube. There are so many questions for you, John. So
all right, I'll go back and see what I can answer.
All right, absolutely. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.
Have a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.